So I'm Charles Dellinger with Dellinger Construction. I'm the market manager for the Jacksonville area, which encompasses Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Daytona Beach, overseeing our projects there and also in a business development role for the company. So we're a licensed general and roofing contractor. A large majority of what we do is roofing replacements and repairs, both residential and commercial. And as a general contractor, we're doing quite a bit of work rebuilding residential properties after damages. So it's been pretty crazy. Hurricane Ian was a very strong storm that came in the southwest part of the state and then worked its way completely across the state. So it's impacted, obviously, where it came ashore in a really bad way, and it's still pretty chaotic in southwest Florida. But all the way up through the south side of Orlando, out to Daytona Beach, and even up into Jacksonville, there's been a lot of damage that people have sustained, both from not just the storm and the wind and the rain, but from really high water levels and flooding. So a lot of that rain that gets dumped in a storm over central Florida will end up in the St. Johns River Basin, and that flows north into Jacksonville. So you've got really high water levels in the river. On top of that, you have a storm surge, and then on top of that, coincidentally, it was the highest tides of the year that week when Ian came through. So those three things have caused a lot of damage in neighborhoods with flooding where people that lived there for 20, 30 years never saw any flooding, and then through the storm had 2 feet of water in their neighborhood. So that kind of brings to light thinking about protecting yourself and your property, that some circumstances you can't predict, and you may be faced with damage that you never thought was possible in your neighborhood. So preventative, I think of maybe two categories. One being physical, like your physical property, and now is the time to do it. Right, we're out of hurricane season. You've got several months until the next one starts, so it's a good idea to go through your property and think of your property as the roof being the most important part. It protects everything in your house, not just you and your family, but your furniture, your clothes, your kids' toys, your family heirlooms or photo albums. All of that important stuff that you've accumulated over your lifetime is all protected by your roof. So if you have an active roof leak now or some issues with your roof, now is a good time to get somebody out and repair them, and so you're ready for the storm. Second would be your gutter system. If you have gutters on your property, test them. Put a hose up to them, make sure they're working, they're not clogged with leaves or debris, and that they're pushing water away from your house, which is what they're supposed to do. And then things in your yard are important. Fences. Are your fences up to date? Are all the boards fastened properly? Is your kid's trampoline secured to the ground? Because we've all seen that video of a trampoline flying down the street in a hurricane. So not just your safety, but the safety of your neighbors and the other people around you. The second part of that is your homeowners policy. What level of protection do you have? And there's a ton of different ways you can go with that, but now is a good time to get your policy out, read through your declarations page, take some notes, write some questions down. If there's things you don't understand or aren't quite sure about, ask your insurance agent about those things. Let them explain and maybe give you some options. You really want to understand what your deductible is. A standard deductible is 2%. And a lot of people think that 2% means 2% of whatever the check I might get for the damages from the insurance company. Well, it's not. It's actually 2% of the total insured value of your property. So if your property is insured for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, that's a substantial deductible. So you have to be prepared for that. There are other things too. If you live in an older house and you have sustained damage, when the house is built back, it has to be built back to current Florida building code. So that might require upgrades on your roofing system or your electrical. So you want to make sure you have law and ordinance coverage in your policy to pay for those things when they happen. You also may have sustained enough damage to where you can't live in your property while it's being repaired. So think of those expenses adding up: hotel rooms or renting an apartment. Maybe you had a flood and your car was in the flood and now you need a new car. Maybe the kid's school is closed for a few days or you're out of work. So all of those things can stack up, right, and kind of cause a financial catastrophe for people. So taking the time to go through your policy and understanding what you're actually going to have to come out of pocket with when there is an event is a great thing to do, and now is the time to do it. Yeah, so kind of post hurricanes Matthew and Irma a few years ago, the carriers and the state and consumers have tried to bring about some changes. So some of those are have to do with timelines. You know, as of this year, a carrier has to either process or deny your claim in 60 days. They have to respond within 7 days of you filing. So those are changes that will speed up the process to help consumers. They've changed to where an assignments of benefit contract is illegal. And those cause a lot of problems post storms from 4 or 5 years ago, where, you know, an assignment of benefits is basically you giving a third party the rights to your benefits. So they can file a claim on your behalf. They can basically deal with the insurance company charges and receive payments without any involvement from you. So that resulted in a lot of lawsuits and a lot of time expenses to the carriers, expenses to the consumer, and the state for dealing with all of that. So a lot of the changes they've made have been trying to alleviate some of those issues. So when you're purchasing a new property or renewing your policy on your house, don't just focus on the monthly expense of your policy. Really look through it and determine what are the deductibles, what expenses are going to come out of your pocket when you have damage sustained to your property. So that can be whether you have replacement coverage or actual cash value coverage, whether you have a 2% deductible or a lower deductible, the loss of use coverage, the law and ordinance coverage. All of those things are different points that you want to think through and talk about with your insurance agent before deciding on what policy is best for you. Give us a call at Dellinger. We have teams available to inspect your property and advise on the best course of action for any damage you may have sustained. We've been really busy the last few months helping people all across the state, but we'd love to hear from you and provide the best solution we can for you.